Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of Arla at Home in partnership with the Pastry Alliance of the Philippines. I'm Chef Pauline of Chef Peace, and today we're going to do a very simple recipe called Havarti Butter Cookies. With the Christmas season coming soon, we are now thinking of coming up with ideas for gift giving, or some of you might want to, get into business if you're not already in business. And this is a very, very good, easy recipe that you can do for the Christmas season. So for that, we are going to be using two Arla products today. We have our Arla unsalted butter. And let me talk a little bit about the Arla unsalted butter. It's pure dairy, which means now that there's no additives, it doesn't have any preservatives in it. So for any product that will come out, or where you use the Arla butter, it will have a natural, pure dairy flavor to it. And this is what we're looking for in these cookies because they're actually butter cookies. The second product that we're using today is our Arla Havarti cheese. So Arla is originally from Denmark, and Havarti is actually a Danish cheese. It is very similar to like a cheddar, a mild cheddar cheese. However, it is a lot creamier. So the cookies we're doing today are actually going to be slightly sweet and slightly salty. So that's what we're looking for, a very nice balance, which we will get with our Arla Havarti cheese. Okay, so we move now to our very simple ingredients. So we have our Arla unsalted butter, which I've cut up and I've softened already. We have, of course, our Arla Havarti cheese, which we are going to grate later. We have all-purpose flour. Remember to sift your flour. We also have brown sugar, and we have salt. So we just have 5 ingredients for this, and it's very, very easy to do. The first step is we are actually going to get our Arla butter, and we're going to put it into our mixer. And we will also put in the brown sugar. We put this now into our mixer, and we are going to cream this or soften it until it is very light and fluffy. Okay. So while we are creaming our butter, let me just discuss a little bit why I'm using the Arla butter in this particular recipe. This is what we call a butter or a shortbread cookie. So the main flavor here is actually going to be the butter. My choice is Arla butter because if you use other margarines or other types of fats, it's going to affect the flavor of your cookies. And what we want here is to really bring out the natural flavor of pure dairy butter, which we will get, or we get with our Arla unsalted butter. Okay, so we go in now, and if you see, it's starting to get lighter. What we want here really is for it to become light so that our cookie will also be light, but at the same time very buttery. So we want this is a crisp cookie that we're doing, and the more we cream our butter, the lighter and the crispier the cookie will be. Okay, so we stop that, and we have now our next 2 ingredients. I have my salt here. How much salt you're putting in is dependent upon you. We are going to be using our Arla Havarti cheese, which is also slightly salty, and that's why I'm just putting in, this is pretty much like a 1 gram of salt. So we mix this into our flour, and very slowly we put in the flour. Try not to put everything at once because you don't want all the flour to get into your face. Okay? We also don't want to overmix this because we want a crisp cookie and not a chewy cookie. So we don't want any gluten development here. So I'm adding more of the flour. I divided it into 3, but you can just eyeball it. And start out with low speed. just until your flour is not seen anymore. You don't see anything which is white. Okay. And we put the last portion of flour. So with this particular recipe, you don't really need any special equipment. In fact, if you're doing this at home and you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand, especially if your butter is nice and softened, or you can even use a hand mixer for this. So you don't have to worry about, investing or buying very expensive equipment for this. Okay. Let me just take it out, the bowl. And you see here, even if there is a little bit of flour left over, I am just going to mix it a little bit just to make sure that all our flour is incorporated into the batter. Okay. So I'm just using it. So also be careful. Make sure when you are scraping the bowl to go to the bottom, because there are some mixers where the paddle does not go to the bottom of the bowl or does not reach the bottom of the bowl. So I'm just mixing it. Okay. So the last ingredient for today is our Havarti cheese. This is the Arla Havarti. It's a nice creamy Danish cheese. This is what we call a natural cheese. So it does not again have any additives. It's pure dairy as well. And we're going to grate this into our batter. I'm putting in, for this amount of batter, I'm putting in about maybe 50 grams of cheese in here. You can put a little bit more, because if you want a stronger cheesy flavor, that's fine. Okay. So you can see the cheese is quite soft. It's because it's very, very creamy. It's like a creamier cheddar. So let me just scrape this, and then we just stir it into the batter, just to even it out. So I'm scraping the bottom to make sure there's no flour left over and our Arla Havarti cheese is nicely incorporated. So here you have quite a stiff dough. And what we're going to do now is, let me just grab the plastic wrap. Wipe the table a bit. And we're going to wrap the dough in plastic wrap to chill it. What will happen if I bake this right away? If you bake this right away, because your butter is softened, you're going to get very flat, thin cookies. Is that wrong or not? No, it's not wrong. If you really want thin cookies, go ahead and bake it right away. But what we're going to do here is we're actually going to round up the cookies later, make it into balls. So I need the batter to be a little bit chilled so that it's just easier to shape. So we scrape. And I'm just using the plastic wrap to flatten our dough. And we cut it. And this now will go into the chiller for about 30 minutes to 1 hour. The good thing with this is if you're doing this as a business, you can actually make a big batch and keep it in your chiller. And as you need it, for example, tomorrow you have 1 dozen cookies that you have to bake, you can just roll out the 1 dozen cookies and keep the rest in the chiller for future use. So after 30 minutes to 1 hour, we have now the dough that we made. And we take it out of the chiller. And if you look at it, it's not very hard. If you press it, you should have an indentation of your finger. Okay. So you can do a few things with this. Today we're going to be rolling it out so that you get pretty much like rounded cookies. You can also roll this out and cut it into whatever shape you want. Or you can also, the classic shortbread is actually cut into sticks or into bars. And you can also do that as well. The other thing that you can also do is when you put the dough into the plastic wrap, you can shape it like a log. And then once it's firm, you can cut it up so you naturally get round cookies. But today we're doing something slightly different. Okay. So, I'm just going to put my plastic gloves. And then we're going to get small bits of dough like this. And you just want to roll it and put it in your pan. So the size depends on what you want. If you want smaller cookies, go ahead and do smaller cookies. If you want bigger ones, that's fine as well. Okay, so we just continue rolling. If you're doing this for a business, you can also use a small ice cream scoop so that you have a more or less average weight per cookie. So you would scoop it out and then roll it. And we just fill up the whole pan with our cookie dough balls. Okay, now we have our prepared dough balls for our cookies. And I just want to point out, this is our temperature. The upper temperature is between 155 to 160, depending on the size of your oven. And then between 160 to 170 for the lower heat. If you have an oven which does not have upper and lower heat, then you would go with about 160 to 170 degrees Celsius for the oven. And you would bake this for about 15 minutes. So we would just put our cookies into the oven and we wait 15 minutes for our cookies to be done. Okay, so here are the cookies that we baked and I've actually cooled them down already. If you want to make sure that your cookies will have a longer shelf life, you have to cool down the cookies completely so that it doesn't have or create any moisture condensation in the container you're planning to package your cookies in. So the container I'm using is a plastic jar. And why am I using this type of jar? It's because one, it's clear, so you can see the cookies inside. It's very common today for online bakers or even bakeries to deliver products or gifts using our courier services. So with this type of jar, you just minimize the wastage or breakage of the cookies while it is being transported by the courier service. Okay, so it's up to you. It depends on how many cookies you want to put in the jar. So this is our jar of cookies. Let me just put this here at the back. So 15 cookies of this size for a jar of this size. And these are our Havarti butter cookies using our Arla unsalted butter and Arla Havarti cheese. So thank you very much for watching our recipe for today, our Havarti butter cookies in partnership with the Pastry Alliance of the Philippines. This is Arla at Home, Chef Pauline of Chef Peace. Have a good day.